Have you ever walked down a hospital corridor in the dead of night? It's a little unsettling, right? The fluorescent lights buzz, carts rattle somewhere out of sight, and the shadows just seem a bit longer than they should be. Well, welcome to today's Explainer, where we are digging into the anatomy of a chilling legend from Montana State Hospital. We're going to examine this narrative by focusing squarely on the terrifying shared experiences of the patients themselves. So let's set the scene. We're heading into the Extended Care Unit, or the ECU, on a particularly quiet, dark night shift. Our perspective begins with Sheila, a travel nurse who is pulled down to cover this unfamiliar floor. It's totally silent, that heavy kind of silence. And then, at exactly 3 o'clock in the morning, a patient's call bell rings, piercing right through the quiet. Sheila walks into room number 4 expecting the usual, maybe a request for water or some pain meds. But patient Mary drops this incredibly chilling line instead. She says, "There's a nurse that keeps coming in here and standing there in the corner." Just put yourself in Mary's shoes for a second. You're completely vulnerable, stuck in a hospital bed in the dark, and you are absolutely convinced someone is silently watching you from the shadows. And when Sheila asks what this nurse looks like, Mary says it's too dark to make out her face, but she is absolutely certain a woman is standing right there. Imagine the sheer terror of that isolation, telling your caretaker about an intruder, only to be met with total confusion. Section 1. The first encounter. A room check reveals nothing. Sheila is a logical, scientifically minded medical pro, so she naturally assumes Mary is just dreaming or confused. She flips on the lights, checks the corners, and even searches the dark bathroom just to give Mary some peace of mind. But there's literally no one there. Sheila even double-checks with her coworker Stacy. They are the only 2 nurses on the entire floor, and Stacy's been sitting at the desk the whole time. So Sheila reassures Mary and heads back, chalking the whole thing up to a vivid nightmare. But what happens next completely shatters that logical explanation. Okay, let's walk through this timeline because this strange complaint escalates into an absolute tragedy fast. At 3 a.m., Mary is terrified of the nurse in the dark corner. Shortly after, the room and bathroom are completely cleared by Sheila, but just a few hours later, Sheila goes back in to check on her patient. She doesn't find Mary safely asleep. She finds her lying dead on the bathroom floor, the exact same bathroom she had just asked Sheila to check for the mysterious woman. Now, the source material doesn't give us the medical cause of death here, but the psychological impact on Sheila? Profound. Her patient was terrified of her presence, and mere hours later, she was gone. Okay, let's dive into this. Exactly 3 months pass. For a travel nurse like Sheila, 3 months is practically a lifetime of new faces, new units, and new hospitals. She likely had to just compartmentalize the trauma of finding Mary and move on with her demanding career. But the schedule always rotates. 3 months after that fatal night, Sheila gets pulled back down to that exact same extended care unit. And, as fate would have it, she's assigned to the exact same room number 4. The stage is perfectly set for history to repeat itself. The pattern repeats. A new patient, the same shadow. This is exactly where things shift from a bizarre medical anomaly into a verifiable, terrifying pattern. Meet the new patient in room 4, Mr. Howard. Now, it's absolutely crucial to establish his medical baseline here to understand why this matters. He's in his early 60s, described as a nice guy, and most importantly, he is completely alert and oriented. He doesn't have dementia, he's not heavily medicated or hallucinating. The guy is perfectly lucid. The night shift is dead quiet again. And then, the call light for room 4 flashes on. Sheila answers the call, and Mr. Howard, this perfectly lucid man, looks right at her and asks, "Why does this woman keep coming in here and standing in the corner? What does she want?" The time? Exactly 3 a.m. The exact same hour. The exact same terrifying complaint. Put yourself in Mr. Howard's position now. He's wide awake in the middle of the night, staring into the dark corner of his hospital room, watching a woman who doesn't speak, doesn't offer care, but just stands there, looming. His terror is palpable. But for Sheila, the horror is literally paralyzing. And this brilliantly illustrates how an isolated incident transforms into a full-blown legend through corroborating accounts. Look at this side by side. 3 months ago, patient Mary reported a nurse standing in the corner. Today, Mr. Howard reports a woman standing in the exact same corner. 2 totally independent patients months apart in the very same room experiencing the exact same horrifying midnight visitor. Sheila actually has to tell Mr. Howard the chilling truth. She says, "You're not the first one to say that." This completely destroys the idea of a random hallucination. The terror these patients felt was real, and the pattern is undeniable. So, who is the woman in the corner?
Let that sink in for a second. At this point, Sheila's heart is absolutely pounding out of her chest. She leaves Mr. Howard's room and frantically tracks down her coworker, Stacy. She confronts her, practically demanding to know what is going on. Sheila links the fatal incident with Mary from 3 months ago straight to Mr. Howard's current identical nightmare. She demands answers. The patients are clearly seeing someone or something that the living staff cannot account for.
The 1990s spectral nurse, tracing the lore of the ECU. Stacy finally breaks her silence. She looks at Sheila and asks, "Don't you know about that incident?" When Sheila says no, Stacy unravels the dark lore that's haunted this hospital ward for decades. We are going to shift our focus right now from the terrified present-day patients to the tragic origins of the phantom they are actually seeing in the dark. Stacy explains that back in the 1990s, there was a nurse who worked on this exact unit. She was extremely overworked and stressed out, pushed to her absolute breaking point by the environment until she simply couldn't handle the immense pressure anymore. And then we hit the final horrifying parallel. One night, she was found dead on the bathroom floor. Sounds horribly familiar, doesn't it? It's the exact same tragic fate that befell patient Mary. Stacy reveals that over the years, several patients have reported seeing this spectral nurse doing rounds, eternally trapped by her own exhaustion. So, the crucial point is that urban legends often stem from real, systemic tragedies, like severe healthcare worker burnout and fatal stress. This isn't just some spooky campfire ghost story. Beneath the surface of these terrifying patient accounts is a very grounded, deeply tragic reality about the medical field. The specter haunting Room 4 represents the profound toll that extreme exhaustion and pressure take on the people trying to keep us alive. Yes, the patients are terrified of the shadow in the corner, but the true monster that created that shadow, that was systemic burnout. We've unpacked the terrifying midnight encounters, the undeniable patterns across these different patients, and the tragic lore of the overworked nurse that ties it all together. Being a patient in a hospital is already an incredibly vulnerable experience. You're relying entirely on strangers in a stark, unfamiliar place. But this story forces us to really reconsider the shadows in those quiet, clinical rooms. As we wrap up this explainer today, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder the next time you find yourself awake at 3 a.m. in a strange place. Who is watching from the corner of your room? Thanks for exploring this legend with me today. Stay curious and stay safe.